Hey, what's up, everyone? Dragon back again, here to tell you that you should be reading Blasphemy. So, Blasphemy is a 2008 Douglas Preston novel that takes place in Arizona, where there is basically a large particle collider called Isabella. And for those who don't know, particle collider is basically designed to kind of create exotic particles in our universe that potentially can bridge the gap between our universe and potentially other universes. It's basically kind of a big deal in the world of physics, and this team has essentially kind of made what they feel is kind of a startling discovery. One of the team members also ends up dying, and moving forward, basically an agent has to go kind of undercover as an anthropologist to kind of see what's been going on with this team and what this discovery that they're really not talking about is. And essentially what they claim to have discovered is the existence of God, or a God. It's not any particular God from any kind of religious denomination of any kind, but just kind of the divine being that apparently is responsible for all of this. And essentially, kind of word of what's kind of going on is kind of getting out a little bit. And long story short, certain religious groups on the outside have kind of deemed what's going on in this mountain kind of, heresy, basically, and are kind of trying to converge on it, because I think the lead scientist is essentially the Antichrist, that this Isabella, this machine, is just basically some blasphemous work of the devil. Meanwhile, the scientist is trying to prove that, listen, you wanted it, you got it. A lot of religious people have always said they want, they believe in God. They feel that, this everything that we have today is responsible for, a divine being of some kind. And, science being what it is, even though there are plenty of scientists who believe in God, who are themselves religious, have to deal with the facts. And, the reason why it's called faith, it's because there is not necessarily anything there to say that it's real. It's not like we found the fossil wing of an angel or something like that. It's faith. You have to take it on faith. That's how it works. But imagine if we found proof of God, some kind of scientific data that would support, yes, the literal existence of a God. And in this case, God communicating to us through our bit of our technology. Almost as if sorry about if I'm coughing. I'm getting over, as I say it, being sick, so I still can have this dry, scratchy throat, so I'm trying to keep it under wraps. But as you can hear, it's still coming out a little bit, so I apologize. But essentially, the story, there's a bit of a twist at the end, which I will not spoil, but it just twist that I myself did not see coming, so I was kind of surprised by that, because I feel like I've read a lot of these kind of stories and seen a lot of these kinds of movies, so I always kind of pride myself in being able to, spot them ahead of time. But this time around, I didn't see it coming at all, so I was completely floored. But it's a really clever twist. Like I said, I will not spoil for you. I'll let you discover it for yourself. But essentially, one of the things I took away from the story is, you always hear so many people saying that science and scientists are trying to destroy God, and a lot of scientists even say, well, it's not that. It's just, where's the data? Give us if a scientist could prove the existence of an omnipotent being, believe me, they wouldn't bury that or hide it. They'd be rushing to publish that paper, because they would essentially make the most famous person in history. So essentially, it's what happens. But the question to really ask you is, be careful what you wish for, because you say you want a proof of an existence of God. Okay, but you're assuming it's going to be your God. You're assuming it's going to be the God you worship based on the religious faith that you've been brought up to believe in. So whether you're Jewish or Christian or Muslim or Hindu or Shinto, you're thinking, yes, the existence of God means the existence of my God. But what if it's not? What if we say, okay, we found God, but guess what? He doesn't fit, or it doesn't fit into any of the religious categories that we have. He doesn't fit what the Bible says, doesn't fit what the Quran says, doesn't fit what the Torah says, nothing in the Dead Sea Scrolls, quite sum it up. It's like, what happens when this is a God that is essentially beyond any of the religious, dogma that humanity has kind of created. You got what you wanted, the existence of God, but now it's not your God. And it's almost like for you kind of proving that there is no God, because it's still not your God. It's still not the God that condones, supports what you condone and support, and then damns the things you feel are wrong. It's not a God that kind of validates your own personal views and perceptions of the world. It's a God that perhaps might, speak things that run contrary to how you feel. Then what do? Do you accept it blindly because, well, I guess I got it wrong, but this is God, do I have to go with it? Or do you deny it? You're like, no, this clearly isn't the real God, because if it was the real God, he would be against this, and it would be for this, and this. Because he doesn't fit, that laundry list of, criteria that my, book of faith said he would, this can't be the real one, even though there's the proof, there's the evidence. So it's a story that it's kind of a cautionary tale of be careful what you wish for, because you think you're getting what you want, but in actuality, perhaps ignorance really is bliss. Perhaps it's easier to not have any physical data of an omnipotent being, because then you can say, well, I'm going to believe in the God I want to believe, because even though those guys over there say that God's actually like this, and that person over there says that God's actually like that, but they have no more proof of that than I have of what I believe. So for better or for worse, no one can try to hold sway over me, because they can't say prove it, because I can turn around and say the same thing, prove it, and they can't. But if we actually finally get that, that evidence, it might not be really what we want, because you might find out you're still being told what you believed was wrong, even though apparently there's God. But it's not the right God. It's not the one you were saying was real. So it puts a lot of that into question, and it shows how people might react to that kind of revelation, and how they might deem it as not what it is, but actually as something blasphemous, as something wrong, because they, for the same reason why they cannot imagine a world, or the world as it is, their life, without the existence of an omnipotent being that's kind of made it all for them, nor can they really imagine life in a world without that omnipotent being. The idea of a different one is just as impossible for them to deal with as the idea of there not being one at all. And that's kind of really what the story I took away from. Again, there's one more piece to all this that comes at the end that really kind of just seals this all together and is absolutely genius. But before you get to that, because that really is a revelation that comes right at the end, it also deals with the concept of martyrdom too, and how that can go a long way to establishing a theocracy and a theology, and basically just religious dogma in general. But yeah, so that's really the kind of what the story does. It forces you to take stock in what you believe, and really ask yourself if you understand the nature of faith. Because, like I said, faith is not based on data or fact. It's something you feel to be real. I once had a great evolutionary biologist professor in college or university, for everyone who's not American, and he told there was a girl in our class who said she doesn't believe in evolution. She was essentially taking the class for a credit. He goes, that's fine, but he goes, you're allowed to believe in whatever you believe or not believe in whatever you want in my class. I'm not going to stop, but make sure you get your terminology right. He said, you can't believe in evolution. He said, evolution is supported by data and fact. I don't believe in evolution. I know evolution is real because there's the data. You believe in whatever your faith dictates, because there's no data. It's faith, and that's the power of faith. And that's something religious people have even told me. It doesn't matter that there's no scientists out there uncovering, empirical evidence. That's not what it's about to them. It's something they feel inside of themselves. It's faith. So you don't believe in evolution because it's not about faith. Science is about what we can prove, what we cannot. That's it. Even though, again, like I said, there are many scientists who are themselves religious, and I have actually known a few, and they draw the line in the sand. They said, God, I'm so sorry for sorry about that. I know it's terrible. I'm trying to make it through here. But they basically say, when they're in the lab, they're scientists, and they deal with the facts despite what their religious teachings have taught them. And when they walk out, they are religious people, and that's how they feel, and they keep the two separate. But again, what happens when kind of worlds collide? Is it really what we want? Do we really want these two worlds colliding? Because if they were to meet, it might not be what anyone expected it to be. And the fallout of that might be far worse than scientists telling you, hey, there's no proof of God, so there's no God. Because you can just turn around and say, well, you know what? Hey, it's faith. I don't need your proof. But if they give you proof, that actually might be worse. So it plays around with a lot of these notions of being careful what you wish for, and how would people really react if they got what they wanted, and would they realize that maybe it wasn't what they wanted all along. But anyway, that's kind of the crux of the story and kind of what I walked away from it. But anyway, Blasphemy, have you read it? If so, what did you think? If you are someone who is of a particular faith and you feel comfortable sharing that, what would you? How did you feel when you read this book? How did you interpret that? And again, this isn't me calling anyone out or poking fun of. This is me legitimately asking, a question out of curiosity. If you are a person of a particular religious background, how would you feel if discovery like this was made, and they said, okay, we have the evidence, but again, it was different than what you had been brought up to believe. Would you accept it? Would it bother you that it was different, or would you deny it? Would you feel that because your faith has, explained things a certain way, and that this evidence doesn't, facilitate that belief system, would you feel that it's not, that it couldn't be real, or would you be like, well, I guess I was wrong? Again, I'm just curious. This isn't me, trying to dig around. I'm just asking out of sheer curiosity if it's something you guys feel like sharing. If not, don't worry about it either. But anyway, if nothing else, just give me some of your thoughts on the book, because it's a cool read. And again, it's got a lot of twists and turns. And if for no other reason, the ending is worth reading, because again, it's a surprise. I did not see it coming. I don't know. I'd be very surprised if any of you guys did, because it really kind of like comes out of nowhere. And once you see it, you're like, whoa. But anyway, if you guys haven't read it, don't worry. As always, I will leave links in the description section below where you can pick it up. Come back, give it a read, give me some of your thoughts, let me know. And as always, guys, we'll catch you on the next one. Peace!